All right. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Very excited to talk about Nebula. There's obviously a whole bunch of things that we've been working on, and being behind the scenes of it all has been really, really interesting. And I can't wait to talk about it a little bit more in depth.
I can't wait to learn about it, man. This is uh, Nebula Insights, and there's a lot of stuff I read through, but I think just going through everything in this workshop with you would be amazing.
100%, 100%.
As
Yeah, I think another cool thing that I can kind of dive into is obviously kind of like what we have today and where we're heading for the future, right? One of the things that has been interesting is that as we create Nebula and we use the tooling that ThirdWeb has, it gets more and more powerful both by itself and also by the tools that we create. One of the things that I'll dive into in a little bit here is, we recently have our indexer become 10 times faster. A big shout out to Amin and the indexer team. And what that means is that you can now use Nebula and index data, 10 times faster, right? And that has, a world of difference for those who are using real-time blockchain data, which in reality is everybody. And so I really do see that this really big shift in how we build consumer applications, games, AI agents coming very soon. And I do believe that a big part of it will be enabled by Nebula.
nice. So when did this happen? This upgrade?
This was a couple days ago, I think 2 days ago now. So yeah, it's recent, right? Fresh off the press.
Yeah, the latest news, right on this channel. Yes.
Exactly.
All right, awesome, man. Can't wait. Again, everybody who's listening, ThirdWeb is an amazing team working on this for a long time now. Actually, one of the pioneers, I would say, for kind of toolings to make the life easier for all the Web3 developers out there. And just in the Vanar ecosystem, a lot of people have utilized this. Their services in different ways, right? Like, I mean, some people just wanted the wallets, and on top of that, there was ecosystem wallets as well. And then there's also the payment stuff, all sorts of, like, even contracts for marketplaces. And I mean, last year we even had like an internship program where almost out of the 40 interns, like 40 of them were easily able to integrate ThirdWeb features into their dApps, which is really awesome, right? For starters, people that are starting out, they don't have to learn everything from scratch. It's overwhelming for them, definitely. And Web3 is not hard, definitely. It's not, I mean, development for a backend developer who is familiar with all that tech, Web3, like smart contracts, all of that is easy, but it's just it's very different structurally and architecturally than your traditional back-end, front-end kind of stacks that you're used to. And that's where this comes in, right? Just like, how Unity is for Web2 games, ThirdWeb is like the go-to, I would say, for dApps, Web3 dApps. So, and then on top of this now, with Nebula, and I'll let JRP take over right away, it kind of adds an extra intelligence layer on top of whatever you're building, and making the dApps faster and better. And ready for the future, basically, right? So go ahead, JRP. I'm gonna hand it over to you. Go ahead and explain everything to them, blow their minds.
100%. Well, first of all, Iffy and the Vanar team, thank you all so much for hosting and putting these workshops on. I think it's absolutely crucial that we teach as many people as possible what is possible today, because where we are at in the blockchain space is absolutely different to where we were at 3 years ago. I remember 3 years ago, it's like, you want to create a wallet, you have where are you going to go to do that? There's almost like no place to do that. To give a quick overview of ThirdWeb and myself, my name is Juan. I go by JRP online, and I am the consumer lead here at ThirdWeb. And so what that means is that I work with a lot of our enterprise to indie mom and pop shops to help them find the right solution for what they're looking to build. And ThirdWeb, generally speaking, fits a lot of what that looks like. As if you mentioned, we really help a wider range of developers, because ThirdWeb is a full stack tool that is open source and works with every EVM chain that provides developers with front end, back end, and on chain tools. And, as I can really quickly share my screen and we can kind of dive in deeper into what Nebula is, show you Nebula, because this isn't some sort of, something to come. This is something that is here already and is actively getting worked on and obviously improving. Can you please confirm that you can see my screen?
It's coming up. It's here, yes.
Perfect. Well, as I explained, ThirdWeb has been working on a full stack tools, which includes wallets, RPCs, indexers, and a variety of contract deployment tools. We have taken this full stack and, shout out really to Furkan, who has been working within the AI space for a while now and tinkering and starting to build our own models with the tools and information that we have as ThirdWeb to be able to then create a blockchain LLM. Now, what does that mean for us, and what is Nebula? What can it, theoretically do, and what can it do today? First and foremost, the way that Nebula works is that it'll enable any AI agent and any developer to use the LLM to read, write, and reason. And so the way that we're working on Nebula is by creating a native blockchain LLM, which means that we are training this model with large amounts of data that then it can be used to have more dynamic conversations and the way that I like to kind of put it is a natural language to be able to execute and read on chain, right? That's something that a lot of things have been recently blowing up with the trend of DeFi AI, which is, hey, XYZ, move my money from here to here, put this money from this high yield pool to this high yield pool, do this, this, and that, stop loss at this. This natural language X is what I call it, is essentially abstracting away crypto, blockchain, and all things that come with interacting on chain. And more importantly, as the rise of AI agents starts to come up, there was no way for AI agents to pay each other. AI agents today can't go out in the real world and sign up for a bank account and go in real life and show their ID. It's just not, the way that it's most optimized for something that is digitally native. And so we knew that if there was going to be a, movement within blockchain, there had to be a part of an AI agent's brain that was specifically focused in on for the blockchain part of what we call, reasoning, right? The model that we are creating, it is called T1, and it's trained on, around 3,000 EVM chains, all of the contract addresses and ABIs that we have within ThirdWeb, the protocols that we've created, all of the transactions that we've done, the wallets that we have been able to generate, and also the code snippets and how to, since as ThirdWeb is a full stack platform, we have also focused in a lot of our time on creating content to allow for developers to understand what is needed to help them ultimately launch on chain. And so that is a really big part of what has been being worked on, and what is going to be continued to be worked on and advanced even more so is T1, right? Which again is a really important part of thinking about Nebula. We now have, this is reason, now we have reading. Reading is reading real-time blockchain data. And so this means reading of contracts, having token and gas prices or block data. Again, this is enhanced by our indexer solution that we have that recently just got 10 times faster. And we are also working on a variety of other updates that would allow for easier consumption of, let's say, NFT metadata, which is a really big kind of pointer for anyone using an indexer solution today. The final part of Nebula that we're working on before diving into what Nebula is, how we think about it, is what we like to call an execution agent, which is how do you prepare using the brain that has been created, so the understanding of the blockchain, the understanding of what even an execution is, and then if you want it based off of some sort of data, having the real-time data now. And the thing that really everybody is looking to solve for is for execution or writing on chain. So how do you allow for something, an AI agent, in this case, the execution agent within Nebula, to encode and prepare transactions to be sent to the blockchain, to support in more complex natural language and doing so via the AI agent. Deploying of contracts, which is, in my opinion, huge for this new wave that we're going to be entering, which is anybody can use blockchain. It's not just for those who can go in and actually code the contracts themselves, write the contracts, and then obviously doing simple things like bridging and swapping, which is also supported by some of the tools that we have internally, which we call Universal Bridge. And so if you were to look at what Nebula is today, what we have done is created a playground for individuals to come to and see what Nebula can do, right? So let's say, as I'm going to be explaining some more things, I will ask it, what is the price of ETH? I actually woke up this morning and saw the price of ETH, so I'm not going to be super happy, but the market goes up. Talking about how do we actually envision Nebula being used, right? We think about Nebula as not a playground where individuals come in and think about interacting with Nebula on the actual chat interface, but this is really just a demonstration of what Nebula can do. The real thing that we're going to be looking at doing today is going to be allowing for individuals to use the Nebula API. This API is going to be really powerful to how you can build Nebula within your application. And we have already started to see some things be used within the API, specifically within some of our native gaming SDKs, which I'll be speaking about in just a little bit. But there's quite a bit that we're able to do with that. We have actually—
that would be nice. Actually, just a quick question. So you mentioned about reading, which is a lot faster, which is good because reading off blockchain traditionally is pretty slow. Secondly, you said execution part as well. So the reading part, I am assuming that Nebula API already provides. The first part you already mentioned that. The execution part, is that also available right now, or is that something to come?
No, it's available. So you can currently execute ERC20s, 1155s, and 721s, and also swap currencies within Nebula. So the nice. Only thing here is that obviously Nebula today is still— the way that we think about building is we're building it first horizontally, which is making sure that it has all the features that anybody would want, and then building vertically, which then means accuracy, speed, right? We want to make sure it has all the building blocks before we go in and we start adding the nice new features, as Eamon would put it, our head of solution. To your point, Iffy, we want to add more things for execution. We want to be able to add more things to this API. And we have already started to integrate a couple of key frameworks that people are using today, like Eliza, to enable them to be able to, use Nebula within Eliza without having to go through any sort of major loops, right?
That would be very awesome for games specifically and such interactive apps, right? Because then, anyway, from dialogue production or all this kind of scripting that we had to do manually and everything can be done now in a pretty dynamic and easy way, just plug and play.
I couldn't agree with you. Sorry, I cut you off. Continue. Apologies there.
Yeah, no, amazing. And I think some of the games that came out were in blockchain games, which were, leaderboards where you have to predict the price of certain tokens, and depending on how correct you are, you earn some rewards and stuff like that. I think those would just be so much easier to kind of make and make them more engaging as well, because I think traditionally they were pretty complicated. Even just getting those insights for a user to be able to make the predictions was super hard. I think having something like this conversational kind of stuff would just make getting those insights very easy, and then be able to execute a lot better and faster, I guess, because you're just able to kind of talk to them to it pretty much.
100%. And that actually, let's go ahead and check on the price of ETH here before diving into— all right, so it says here the price of ETH is $2,133.08. The fully diluted market cap is about $250 billion. So here you can see that I was obviously able to both give us the price of ETH and also a little bit more in-depth information. Maybe let's ask it what was the latest block on the Ethereum? Right. So as we wait for this response as well, I'm not sure how long it'll take, and we can kind of test the timing here in a bit. I do want to talk to what you just mentioned, Iffy, which is the ability for abstraction of these things that we were previously scripting for and creating code specific for it is now able to be kind of throw out in the trash, and now you can have some sort of AI that allows for you to do this. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Iffy, this prompt here or this video, but I want to showcase it to everybody. It's really fast, and it shows like the power of what Nebula is able to do today within our Unity SDK, which, you know, if you're unfamiliar, ThirdWeb is actually one of the largest Web3 gaming ecosystems as well, because of how native our SDKs are and how flexible and how in-depth our tech is for gaming, again, outside of being the full stack tool. So let me go ahead and just quickly prompt here, which is, this is Nebula within a Unity game, which is being engaged within a unscripted conversation, and obviously kind of like with a back end of an ecosystem, a token within there, what in this case it would be gold, being able to swap and bridge using natural language, and then facilitate in-game transactions without having to interrupt gameplay. So let's go ahead and...
Hey, warrior.
Oh, nice.
Boom, right?
Oh, this just got done in game.
So this is just like an animation video. We are actually, I'm prompting our team to create something similar, so we can actually showcase it at GDC. So hopefully.
Very nice, man. Very nice. Imagine that, eh? Just like not having to go outside of the game for all these tiny little transactions that we have to sign and all that crap. Usually.
Exactly, right? Like, you know, if this wasn't the case for this showcase, let's say that, you know, you even had an NPC that was able to just read your wallet. It would be able to say, hey, you don't have any gold in your wallet, and then that's kind of it, especially if it was just indexing for that chain. You know, in this case, you know, we're indexing for abstract and base, to be able to then say like, hey, you have money somewhere. The person would have to go out, change networks, find a bridge, have the native currencies for both of the chains, then go in, swap, go back into the game, connect their wallet, and then confirm the transaction.
Yeah, I think he would have left by then. He would have shut the game off. It's like, I'm out.
That's exactly right. You know, even it's wild. We have shout out to Joaquin, who is really looking to push the mobile UX forward within you know, Web3 and crypto. Today, a lot of the consumer-based applications, general crypto applications, are actually based within web, right? And the idea of being able to, even on web, to just have one click instead of 2 clicks when connecting your wallet can increase your revenue by 2 times, right? Like the lowest friction always wins. And that's why, you know, when it came to mobile gaming, when the iPhone came out and they understood that idea of the lowest friction wins, things like Angry Birds just blew up. And I think we're finally getting to a point where like AI is making crypto as frictionless as possible. And I think it'll still take a little bit, like, don't get me wrong, but it'll be at a point where it's just like straight, you know, we're going and it's fast, it's simple, no one knows what's happening, but people that know what's happening actually, you know, are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think the people that have experienced the old way of how Web3 works, they will be reluctant, but the newcomers that are coming in, they won't even notice. They'll be like, oh, you know, it's just an app or a game or whatever, and these are cool features that are in it. they would just take advantage of all of this that has been done now. Not like the older Web3 ones, people that ran away saying it was too hard,
Exactly.
So very nice, man. Very good to see, and very good to see that this is something that anybody can now utilize. It's not rocket science anymore.
100%, and that's what we need, right? Everyone talks about like onboarding the masses. Like we're not able to do that without it being abstracted away. I think maybe we thought in the beginning when crypto started that we can do it just with crypto. And as you know, we feel like crypto and AI are just so interconnected, right? And it's really has been great to see it kind of, grow together, and it'll likely continue to grow together in ways that we just, haven't thought possible. I never thought that I would be able to interact with an AI agent in game to do all the transactions for me without me caring, which is what I've always really wanted, from just generally speaking with crypto. You can see here.
Definitely. I think I 100% agree, because blockchain is kind of the best fit for producing transparent data, which then AI can utilize, right? And I think people that are working with AI and blockchain technologies, like engineers or developers or whatnot, they do see the potential there. They do see the kind of borderless work that's happening. They don't need, as you said, like AI agents can't go and open up a traditional fiat bank account, but you can get them to do a lot on chain because things are digital and automated. So I think as time goes by, this is something that's gonna definitely blow up and pick up at a lot faster pace than in traditional use cases.
100%, absolutely, and it's just going to continue to grow like wildfire. I mean, we've seen all of the AI like improvements. I think even GPT 4.5 launched today. It's everyday thing at this point. It feels like, right? It was almost 3 years ago now that GPT came out, and same thing with like Google Gemini, where you would ask it like, hey, is it safe for me to it was like eat rocks? It was like, yes, it is safe for you to eat rocks. Obviously not there yet, and I think that that's shown with Apple implementing Gemini over GPT now, right? Like it's just the improvement is 10x, it feels like, every single year, and that's just going to take us so to new heights in everything, right? And really everything. I do also here want to say that, like, we asked for the latest block on the ETH network. Here it gave us, it was block number, what is that, 21 million. And then here you can see the hash, and then let's ask it. So here, even just this information for other execution agents or just like chatbots, like I've seen them struggle. Let's try to see how much deeper we can go. Like, what can you tell me about this transaction? And then after this, I'll show a little bit more of like the prompts that people are using, some of the use cases that we have seen people use Nebula today within the API. And then I'm kind of curious is there anything else that you wanted to go over or wanted to mention as we're waiting for Nebula to think here?
I think it thought already and spit out the answer, so that was pretty fast. Let's just look at that part.
Here's the hash. Yeah, it was pretty fast. I was expecting it to be a little bit longer, but as I mentioned, like, we're going to be working on speed as we start to dive deeper into some of the vertical accelerants here for Nebula.
I think there is some questions in the chat, but I think after we go through this, we can go through them, and they're pretty generic questions, but still, like, I think people do want to know. So let's see this transaction hash, and then I'll go through the questions quickly.
So it actually said here it was found on the block, but there's, without specific transaction details or context, I can provide a comprehensive breakdown. So it says, what would you like to help me retrieve more specific details about the transactions? Let's see, maybe like, what would you like to know about that transaction? I mean, what was the gas fee paid?
Yeah, sure.
I know I just unshared my screen, but I will go back to this in a little bit. I'll go back to the stream to see some of these questions here. See if I can even, oh, nice. Wow, we have a whole bunch of people in here. What? This is wild.
Yeah, thanks guys. Yeah, I think when it comes to like, AI stuff, people are very interested in kind of knowing what's going on, and so thanks.
Yeah, a couple of things. Better than GPT. Again, like this will work with GPT, right? Again, we think about Nebula and things like GPT as Nebula being, specifically T1 being the blockchain part of the brain of the LLM, whatever LLM you use. So it'll just enhance the experience by essentially giving that LLM, in this case, let's say GPT, with execution functionality, reading mechanisms, and also reasoning for blockchain.
Yeah, and I guess somebody mentioned security as well. So I would just kind of rephrase that question into, is there something that people need to consider security measures wise when kind of implementing stuff using Nebula in their apps or in their games or whatever?
Absolutely. Really quickly, we'll just share the answer here. So what was the gas fee paid? It was about 1 billion Wei. So yeah, and about 1 Wei. I can ask it for the USDC conversion, but let's answer that question and we can kind of come back to this in a little bit. Yeah, when we think about Nebula, like we still believe that people should take the security measures that they would be taking if they're building a dApp, right? A blockchain, kind of making sure that you aren't releasing your client ID, making sure that you have all the things like T enabled for your AI agent, so someone can go in and actually steal those private keys and then kind of control. I think within Nebula in particular, like we are thinking more and more about, what are things that we can do on our end, as well as not only just for Nebula, but ThirdWeb. Like security is very, very important because we want to make sure that as people build, what they build is secure and who they interact with is also secure. We also just recently saw like the Bybit, right, thing that just happened. It's never not a good time to think about security. It always is. And I know that our solutions engineers can, guide you a bit more on like what are the specific things that people should be thinking about when thinking about, security here for Nebula.
Awesome. And somebody I think there's a few questions. I'm going to mix them up. So how can people building on Vanar utilize this? So mainly, I think there's a lot of use cases that are being worked on nowadays on Vanar chain projects specifically that I look at. And these projects are working on real world use cases, not just, kind of random meme coins or stuff that was happening in the past. So now there is actually, healthcare projects that are using Vanar chain. There is customer service ones. There is supply chain ones. There is like HR recruitment softwares. There's a lot of different real world use cases where people are utilizing blockchain technology into their stuff, which require like customer service kind of elements as well, aside from just other like blockchain stuff like swapping and all that's there. But there's still like a lot of stuff that these real world use cases can utilize blockchain data to be read off using Nebula. They can actually easily read that data off the blockchain, the stuff that they're writing, right? So the medical records, I don't know, like when a truck left from some place to another place, if all of that stuff is on chain, and you're storing it on chain, then rather than manually having to code to retrieve all of this, you can easily use Nebula to actually retrieve all this data intelligently on case-by-case basis, where the end user can just ask this question, hey, when is my delivery scheduled for? Where is it right now? Stuff like that in a very casual way, rather than having to go the traditional, even today, most career services that you go to, you have to actually follow specifically, have their tracking ID, then go to their website and then figure out what their format of showing you the delivery information is, all that. So all that, like kind of learning a new courier system or a new pharmacy supply system or a hiring process, all of that is kind of now abstracted when you're using something like Nebula, which is completely AI driven. So it gives you information in a way that and when I say you, I mean that specific person who's asking the information in a way that they understand.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So I think in that way, I couldn't think of many dApps that would not be able to leverage Nebula at all. Like if you actually think about it, most of the dApps do interact with end users, and end users have different ways of different habits, different kind of preferences that they want to use the app for, and that's exactly what AI-driven stuff is there for, is to kind of personalize all that experience for you, for a specific person, not generalize it for everyone and just expect everyone to learn it and then understand it. And again, through that, it also makes it faster, right? Like kind of again, I'm using the supply chain example, but it could be airlines, it could be whatever.
And one thing I do want to know is that there is a key difference between using Nebula and not using Nebula, from like a standpoint of you can achieve some of the things that I think some people think you need Nebula for with just using Insight, just using Indexer. But I think once you throw Nebula in there, again, it makes it dynamic, it makes it automated in a way where it can help your workflows become much quicker, much more effective, efficient, and allows for, you know, it to just kind of automatically run, right? And so I think that that's one of the powerful things. It's not like if you're just going to go in and use the indexer and like that's kind of like it's just one-to-one. It really creates like a vast number of opportunities. I did see some questions here. Some people are asking specifically on Insight or Indexer. Again, this is something that Nebula uses. It also is its own product. Insight actually does not use any sort of GraphQL, so it doesn't have its traditional like querying system, but we actually have just a simple API that you can use and that you can actually code with blueprints to find the data that you want to find without having to do all of the things that previously was thought of as needed, right? Which would make it more difficult. I would highly encourage everybody to take a look at, Insight, which again just became 10 times faster, and we're going to be adding NFT metadata next week here, and it's going to be really exciting. And Iffy, I don't know if you saw, but Simple Hash was recently acquired by Phantom, and they are going to be deprecating their API service for their indexer solution. And so the industry there is a little bit of a scramble, and part of the reason why we also started to come up with some of those updates as well.
Nice, and I think it's good that you clarified this. The Insights is different from Nebula. Because initially, when I looked at it as well, I thought that Insights was like a part of the Nebula thing, but these are two separate things altogether.
You can also think about it as a part, because Nebula does rely on Insights for blockchain information, right? And so like that's the way that we think about it. It's kind of like we have taken our full stack and added on top of it the T1 model, and now are improving it, fine-tuning it to be, AI agent-like, and then obviously within the API to just have that be the only one API you need for all of these different services: execution, reading, reasoning, which is what we definitely see a lot of people starting to implement today.
Nice. So yeah, I think generally for all the listeners that are kind of coming in, because there's people that are they have used a lot of these AI tools or blockchain or whatnot, but there's a lot of people, I think, in the listeners that are not too familiar with blockchain or AI development yet. But I would really encourage you guys that this is the next step. So you really need to dive into it, and there's no easier way than this to dive into it than using Vanar. We have like free testnet setup. You don't have to spend a penny. Go to the faucet, get your tokens, get it in there. Go to ThirdWeb, start playing around with these APIs, integrate them in your app, because I think in the past all you were learning was blockchain when it came to Vanar or when it came to ThirdWeb, but now it's actually combined with the AI stuff as well, which now kind of supercharges your knowledge base if you actually dive into it now. So I would really appreciate it. I think Vanar itself is moving a lot towards AI products and AI-based kind of features in the blockchain. And I think a lot of it is going to be coming soon. I can't talk too much about it yet. Otherwise, marketing team will kill me probably. But in general, like ThirdWeb has all these features now, and you can definitely utilize Vanar, use it in your test projects. Just play around with it. I think like it would be foolish not to. It would be foolish to stick to whatever syllabus your universities or wherever you are is providing you, which generally is make a CMS or make an ERP system or something like that. That's generally where studies start from, but they shouldn't end there. You should actually be utilizing a lot of this blockchain and AI tech into just figure out how you can integrate it into your dApps, because once you try to get them integrated in your dApps, you'll actually come to a point where you'll realize that, oh my god, I can't believe I was going to go without them.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. And I do want to share my screen again to kind of answer some of the questions in the chat, like what are some of the use cases, like how do I prompt it? Everybody, if you want to get access to Nebula today, it's as easy as just going to thirdweb.com/Nebula and I guess email me or hit me up on Telegram and send me your email, and I will get you accepted into our waitlist. We are hoping to go into public beta access in next month, and then public access the following month. So then it would be open to everybody. You don't have to sign up, but we are currently in a waitlist early access mode. And yeah, thank you for sharing that link there. It's absolutely amazing. A couple of other things that I see, like Vanar has all of the tools enabled already. And so, if you want to use Insight within Nebula, you can do that. If you want to deploy contracts within Nebula, you can do that. And so, you can, again, get started today with that. Within the context filters, which I'll be explaining in just a little bit, you're able to then change the actual context to Vanar. So we're currently working on a way to send you all the ability for essentially to send people Nebula with Vanar already as a context so that they can get started and push it out as soon as possible. Yeah, the question here that is prompted here, can it detect suspicious activities and potential exploits? We actually recently ran a startup program and with just the focus on Nebula. And one of the exciting projects that I personally am really looking forward to, and I think we'll see more and more, is this idea of how can Nebula help someone actually understand how to create their own smart contracts. So someone would go in and say, hey, I want to create a contract for XYZ, and Nebula guides you on how to build this contract. In the same vein, Nebula in the future, we foresee it being a really great auditor. So it'll be able to, you can upload a contract and it can give you, hey, this contract for this outcome actually looks a little bit weird from all of the ones that I've seen, millions of contracts in the past. And so we're going to see a reduction of exploits as well, which again, we're not there yet, just being clear, but we want to get there as soon as possible because we do see a lot of benefit to that. Absolutely. A couple of other things, like what's the biggest competition that Nebula has? As of today, there is not a lot of people working on a blockchain LLM. There is a lot of people working on a solution for a AI agent to do execution via APIs. So they have like the playground that we have, but then they just plug in APIs everywhere so that they can do execution. Again, it's not LLM specific. Does that mean that you need an LLM to do these things? Personally, I don't think so. But I do think that you need an LLM to do these complex things and do it in a way where it's very human friendly. An API doesn't understand really what a human wants to do. It just knows that it needs to hit the database. And so the LLM is kind of where that kind of comes in and obviously makes the user experience much, much better. You don't need to be a developer to use Nebula or AI tools. It's just prompting. So if you know how to type and you can type in any language, then you are good to go. You don't even have to know English. And that's one of the great things about Nebula as well, obviously because of all the things in the background. Let me go ahead and actually share my Telegram ID in the here in the chat so people can feel free to ping me, and I'm more than happy to give you all access. to Nebula and have a chat about how you want to use Nebula on Vanar and how we can all push Vanar ecosystem forward, as we obviously want to support Vanar as much as possible. And let me go ahead and share my screen once more to kind of walk through the final bit of what you should be thinking about when thinking about Nebula. And if you feel free to stop me for any questions that pop up. Hopefully I answered a good amount of them.
Yeah, the questions will keep coming. So just I think carry on with your agenda. Let's finish that first.
Cool, sounds good. First and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, is an AI agent required for what I want to do on chain, right? We kind of discussed this a little bit earlier. For your goal, first of all, what is your goal? And if it doesn't need an AI, it doesn't need an AI if it has a hard rule. A scenario for this is like an exclusive space. So for example, if you need a ticket, if you're going to give someone a ticket, you don't necessarily need an AI to do that, right? You can just mint them a ticket, let's say with Engine, and with Engine, as long as they have their wallet connected, it'll just airdrop them a ticket. They're good to go. Don't need Nebula for that. But if you then want something to go in and say, hey, if you go in and prompt, hey, I have a ticket, can I get into the club? Nebula can act as like a bouncer and say like, hey, I see you have the ticket, but you don't have this other thing, so you can't get in. And more importantly, because that's something that can be hard coded, the bouncer can be like, and if you want to get that thing, you can go here. And if someone then can say, hey, I actually don't have money on that network, can you then bridge and swap it for me? Again, Nebula can do that. So it's just like a little bit more of again, user-friendly, human ease of use in this use case. And again, you don't necessarily need an AI agent to do everything that you absolutely need. We have here some integration concepts, right? So the thing to think about when integrating Nebula is the API endpoints that we have. Those are currently execute and message. And so those are like the two endpoints that we have. We are going to be adding more and more, especially also in the plugins, like for Eliza. We have this idea of sessions. So sessions are when someone is typing to Nebula, again, kind of similar to GPT, you can start a new chat, new session. Same thing with context. You can add context to Nebula to say, hey, I'm using this particular wallet, I'm using this particular network. And so once you give it context, you prompt it with context, it would allow for Nebula to be a lot more granular on its view of what you're discussing, right? Let's say that there is a token and you only want to discuss the token in terms of the token on Vanar. Again, you can kind of context prompt it there. And then responses, as I mentioned, we have the execute action and then the message feature within the API. So what are some of the prompts, that you can use? These are our workshop prompts, and we can feed this to Nebula as we're answering questions, maybe. So it's like, tell me what you know about Arbitrum mainnet. What is the address of USDC on Arbitrum mainnet? What is the total supply? What is the current price, gas price on our mainnet? Show me the last block. Show me the last block on our mainnet. Show me the text, the transactions in that block. Show me the transaction details for that transaction. Again, these are just more general prompts just to get you all starting to think about what you can do. But, we're going to get to a point one day where, and this won't be Nebula, I want to have that be clear, we are not going to be working on everything for consumers to use. We are hoping that everybody here in this workshop will go in and help build Nebula with us to build very unique use cases, to say, you can use the T1 model and the Nebula API, but what is your other secret sauce, right? What are the other points of the data that others don't have that allow for you and your use of Nebula to then create a product that no one else has ever created? How are you going to use Nebula differently to create a different user experience within a game, within an application, within just generally an AI agent? These aren't things, ThirdWeb is not creating products, we're creating infrastructure and tools to allow you all to go out and dominate the world and make sure that you're taking Vanar to the next step, right? And so that's something that we're absolutely passionate about. It's been our thesis since the beginning. And again, we're pushing there every single day. Here you can also see, I'm building a chat UI.
Are you sharing your screen by any chance? Oh, you are now.
Oh,
okay, good. I just saw it.
I see. Oops. Hopefully it was showing up earlier as well. here you can see, Nebula has a really great idea of ThirdWeb. So if you are a ThirdWeb developer, you can now use Nebula to actually help you build, right? So it's like, hey, I'm building a chat UI in a website with React and need a connect wallet button. Can you show me how to do that with ThirdWeb? And Nebula will give you the code so that you can just plug it in, right? So you can think about Nebula as your Eamon. You can think about Nebula as G, Yash, Lauren, all of our CS team. Shout out to them. Now you have someone, a ThirdWeb specific agent helping you integrate ThirdWeb into everything, right? Again, you don't need Nebula to be within the wallet connect button to do XYZ. You can use it to help you implement and actually build as soon as possible and as quick as possible. I want to use smart wallets. Which endpoint in API endpoint ThirdWeb engine should I use if I want to mint this contract or this token? So that's like an additional thing that you can use Nebula for, again, because it's using the ThirdWeb tech stack already. And then, as I mentioned, we can actually execute ERC20 tokens. I've done one before where I execute JRP on, I forgot what network, like a JRP token. And I definitely plan on using Nebula in this way in the future. And personally, I plan on helping push consumer crypto forward, for everybody in the world. And ideally, and I know that an AI agent like Nebula will be a part of that, to be able to just tell someone like, hey, if you want to launch your own token for your own business, that is a real life, grocery store, you can just now type it in, hey, I want to do this, and that, or maybe you just give someone a framework to do that, right? And everybody's is following that. So very excited for the future of this. I'll now stop sharing my screen and yapping, and we can talk a little bit more about the questions that are in the chat.
I think let's probably take 5 minutes for any other questions. There's some EVM word that I saw. Is it integratable with non-EVM chains?
We are not integrated with non-EVM chains, but some alpha, we are thinking about adding some non-EVM chains for some parts of Nebula.
And there's like a comment, but I'll make it into a question. How is JRP speaking in such a mature way?
I took public speaking classes all of high school for Future Farmers of America, and so shout out to FFA if anybody knows of the organization.
Okay, nice. So anybody that's listening and is impressed on how JRP is kind of communicating and doing this webinar, then main thing is that he has actually got training.
Yes.
So you have to work on your skills, definitely. Everybody that's listening, it is not something that comes naturally. It does sometimes, but not this greatly, I guess. Like, you need to actually work on it, get some training, have some mentors, have some idols, try to replicate them, spend some time on it for sure. Do you see any questions? I think I see there's motivation. Yes, there is motivation. Great. I think we already answered that one. I think we answered most of the good ones earlier. So that's good. I think essentially, usually I try to make these sessions like with other workshops. They usually end within 30 to 40 minutes. Somehow with ThirdWeb, once people are a lot more involved, and they run almost to an hour mark. But it's been 50 minutes. I think it is a good time where we kind of wrap it up a little bit. With that, just to let everybody know that's listening, this webinar will be recorded. The recording will be available in YouTube probably within a week's time on our Vanar Chain channel. You guys can visit and learn that. For newcomers that join the workshop, and there's always a lot of newcomers that afterwards tell me that, hey, it was a bit too technical for me, but I do want to learn as well the basics about it. We do have a Vanar Academy LMS also launched, so you can actually go to academy.vanarchain.com, and that is a good place for you to learn about the basics of what blockchain is, how to develop smart contracts, and you can test them out on the chain. And then once you've done that, then there's actually quite a bit of I think there's about 3 or 4 third web tutorials just like this one that are talking a little bit of more in detail about what third web is theoretically, and then there's also a coding seminar with Sean that we had one, which is he actually shows you the code and how to get a dApp up and running in no time. And then of course there's this one that's talking about Nebula. So again, there's very easy progression that you guys can make just by following these links. And ThirdWeb, they have a lot of awesome videos on their channel as well, on the ThirdWeb YouTube channel. I personally have been kind of following them for quite a bit of time, and they're very like following the latest trends as well. So when the Telegram games kind of came out and they were a hit, there was a lot of videos for ThirdWeb and how to utilize ThirdWeb to get the Telegram games out there faster. So anything that's kind of the latest or coming soon, ThirdWeb is probably doing now. So same with this Nebula thing, right? This is something that's gonna blow up into the future, and it's because of initiatives like this that ThirdWeb is taking, where they're like working in advance. One thing I love is they are actually very good at keeping all their partners updated with them. So I mean, we never have to really say specifically that, hey, can you add Vanar network for this feature or that feature? They're very proactive, and they make sure that all of the chains and all the ecosystem is actually connected with ThirdWeb. So any developer that comes on and starts building, they have access to all of these chains, all of these AI tools like you mentioned, like GRP, ELIZA, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a very fortunate time that we're living in, where we do have such teams available that are willing to help us out. I mean, back in the day, I remember there was no way that I could get a handle or email address or anything for a speaker. Like JRP is just handing them out, which is amazing. So thanks so much, JRP. Any closing words for the listeners? We really appreciate your time as usual, and would love to have you back on again, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess the only thing here that I'll mention as another advancement that we are doing is we did just drop Line mini app documentation. So for anybody wanting to build online mini apps and have build on Vanar, you're able to do so with Line documentation. That if anybody again wants to chat about it, let me know. I will say that Line, it has like a really close relationship with Kaya blockchain, and they are, I don't know how open they are to other networks. I think that it's pretty open because it is like an open EVM network. And so I would actually encourage someone from Vanar to build on Vanar online and see what the distribution can be there for them. And maybe you get restricted, but again, like there's just things to do. There's so much to do. We obviously saw what happened with Telegram and going exclusive on Ton. I'm a really big proponent of mini apps. I've seen a couple of people make generate revenue from that. And so I'm a big proponent of generating revenue in Web3, and I hope that we continue to do so, as it'll help everybody succeed. But outside of that, like, yeah, I'm really excited for obviously AI. I've been a part of the Web3 gaming space and Web3 space in general now for about 4 years, and it's been my full time. And where we're at today is again like night and day to where we're at when I kind of first joined and started and was kind of like looking into what was possible. And so very excited to see what builders on Vanar do. I love the push towards real world assets, real world use cases, because I personally believe that localization will blow up when it comes to blockchain integrations, and localization is the way that we should be approaching it, rather than trying to go global. Start off with a particular use case in your area, make it work, make some revenue, and start pushing outwards to other regions as well, which I think we're going to see very soon, and I know we're going to see it on Vanar as well. So with that, I appreciate you, Iffy, for everything, and I can't wait to continue the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always great to have you, and it's always great to have the amazing audience that just can't stop typing in the comment box, which is amazing to see. Thanks so much, guys, for being here. If you guys have any questions, You can contact ThirdWeb, you can contact the Vanar team, you can join our communities if you want to stay updated with announcements and everything. And I think I wish you all guys all the best. Do try everything out, do experiment with these things. These are fairly new, but very exciting, and it is the future. It is something, these are things that you might not learn in university and stuff, but it's almost like necessary to actually get a hang of these outside of your university syllabus, or even if you're working at a place that is not working on AI or blockchain, you probably do want to get exposure. And again, as JRP mentioned, you don't have to be technical to get this exposure. Even if you're a project manager or even a finance guy or whatever, you need to have an understanding of how this is all evolving and working. So again, great to have you, JRP, as usual. Thank you so much for your time.